you. Happy to be here. Thank you, Anurag, for the opportunity. First of all, my name of my book is called The Human Connect. And in the Western world, it's called as networking. And I wanted, the purpose of this whole book is to change the lens. Because networking is a very transactional way of looking at things, nothing wrong with that. I've changed the human connect because, and I will cite by a story, couple of stories, is that it's in giving that you receive. And that's saying by Saint Francis of Assisi, and if we apply that, the whole magic happens and we can become a human magnet. First story I'll illustrate, and these are true stories, is how I met President Obama. I work very closely, I work with various chambers of commerce, and I work with the US consulate a lot. So there was a dinner being hosted much before that, about 10 years back when President Obama was on his seat, and his colleague, his classmate, his name is Dr. Vinay Thumalapalli, was visiting Mumbai. And the US consulate had hosted a dinner in one of the Taj, which is at Taj Lands End, and I happened to be, it was a private dinner, I happened to be sitting next to him. And in the conversation, I started chatting with him. I said, sir, where are you from, etc. So he's an Hyderabadi Indian American, settled in the US. And in the course of the conversation, he mentioned that his wife is from Northeast. And I picked that up and I said, sir, and that was not the time of Netflix, other aspects. So I asked him, have you seen the movie Mary Com? To which he said he didn't know about Mary Com. So I told him it's a Northeast boxer who's come up, etc. And he said, oh, I would love to have a copy, but I'm leaving tomorrow evening. Anyway, the conversation ended. We all left. And I stay in Bandra. So I started, when I told my driver, I was driving out, and I suddenly thought, why don't we, and you know, I'm calling it a bakra. These are shops which are available on the corner. And that time they used to sell DVDs. And I stopped and I said, Bhai Sahab, do you have a copy of Mary Com? At a princely sum of 50 rupees, I picked up that Mary Com DVD. I went back to the Taj Lands End, put it up in an envelope, and you know, just because I didn't know his room number, I said, and attached my card again with my cell number, and I left it to the concierge and said, please, can you deliver it? That happened, and fast forward next day, at about 11:30, I get a call from a number which I didn't know, and that was Mr. Vinay Thumalapalli calling. And he said, thank you very much, this really touched me, etc., etc. And he said, whenever you're in the US, please be in touch. Again, 1 year later, I happened to go to, there is a big program of the US government called Select USA, and it happens in Washington, DC. So I happened to go there, and you know, there's a huge audience, couple of thousand people, all states represented, and etc. And so he saw me, I mean, I met him briefly, and then there was a private, like after private meeting, which happens where President Obama himself was addressing, and there were probably only 100 guests or a couple of thousand. And Vinay insisted I should be part of that group. And there were several Fortune 500 companies. And so the purpose was, and I had that private audience with the President Obama. So what was that? A small, two lessons from that. Nothing is too small or too big. Power of listening and acting on it. But it has to come with an intent. I never expected what will happen. I just did it because I enjoy doing it. Second, I will talk about is the power of networking with a purpose. I am a very active Rotarian since last 35 years. In fact, I'm going to be the president-elect of Rotary Club of Queen's Necklace. So I'm also a trustee of a hospital which is in Sion. It is called Lion Tarachan Bapa Hospital. And it's a 100-bed hospital, and they were that time discussing that they want to set up a cardiac facility which will cost about 6 crores. And they had a facility needed, it's near Dharavi, so you know, the need was great. And for the poorest of the poor, it was a charitable hospital. So, and they didn't have the resources. So I heard that, and I took it back to the board of our Queen's Necklace. We have something called as a miracles team, and I discussed with them. I said, here is an opportunity, they're really doing good work. I would just like to, and I knew we had the money sitting, and there were large check writers available in our club who wanted to give for such kind of. So what I did was just took that opportunity, took 2 or 3 of our key board members and had a meeting. At that time, it was one Lion, Ashok Mehta, who was also the World Lion President at one time. I made that meeting happen. I said, y'all have a conversation. My role is to just make y'all sit on the table. Fast forward, it translated to the project. The 6 crores our Rotary Club gave. We also applied for a global grant from Rotary International. It was the first project of Rotary and Lions. Today in Mumbai, we are doing maximum surgeries, even more than Sion Hospital and KM Hospital for the neediest and for below poverty line. So that's the power. Again, it was networking with a purpose. I did not expect anything. So what said, "Tumhara kya fayda hua?" People have asked me. I said, "I've earned karma. For me, this is great karma." I can go on. And the last story I will share before I get into conversation with Anurag is that another thing is how I met Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu while he was visiting India. There was again, it was a couple of years back when it was raining heavily in Mumbai and it was all flooded. So I just happened to call the then Consul General, who was a good friend of mine. His name is Yaakov Finkelstein. I said, "Yaakov," he stayed in a building in near Lower Parel. And I asked him, "Is everything okay?" Because in one conversation he's mentioned, "I've got into this flat." He stays in a building. He used to stay in a building called Raheja Vivera. He said some leakages happen once in a while, etc. So then I recalled, again, because if you have the mindset of giving, so I just called him, "Yaakov, it's raining heavily. Do you want to come home? I've got a couple of bedrooms. And I stay in Bandra. I can have my car and driver pick you up. Or is any of your staff there?" Because that time everything was maroon. Neither did he come home, neither did any of his staff. I said, "I'll give them a hot supper, etc." None of that happened, but it built lifetime relationship. And what translated to that, again, the Prime Minister that time was visiting and they were hosting, when the Prime Minister visits, they have meetings with FICCI, all those various organizations, chambers, etc. And there was this one meeting which was that had gone viral, which they had called only the top 50 media celebrities. From Karan Johar to Amitabh Bachchan to everybody you knew were there. And I was the only non-media guy invited. It was a room of 50 people, private dining. I didn't do that task of calling him up for the rainy season because I expected this. But it came back and when he was walking around, because it was a table like that, he was walking around and introducing everybody. And he said, "Sir, meet my friend. He's a dear friend of Israel and he's my friend." So what does that communicate? That if you talk from the power of the lens has to change. You can't fake it. It has to change for everything. Anurag has been a dear friend. When I met him a couple of days back, he said, there is a thing going on. And by the way, my book was soft launched just 3 days back with India's, I feel, is one of the finest filmmakers, Raju Hirani, who's made 3 Idiots, Munna Bhai, MBBS, etc. And tomorrow, officially the governor of Maharashtra is launching it tomorrow at 4:30 at Raj Bhavan. My final story of Raju Hirani, and he's written the foreword in this book. So when he came in, and it was held at Otters Club in Bandra, so I said, "Raju, thoda karte hain, kahani mein twist. You be in conversation with me instead of me asking you." And before he started this conversation, and by the way, Raju Hirani is unlike other actors, you can't pay him to come, or other directors, filmmakers, a very, very straightforward guy, makes one movie in 3 years, and he never goes out. So he started this conversation, and again, his story, which he related, which is part of the foreword in the book, is, he said, "I never knew Manoj. 10 years back, somebody told me, and a crew member of my team had cancer and they wanted an opinion from Sloan's Kettering Hospital in US, and that time there was no visa available, and it was a weekend, etc. And somebody had given him my number because I work closely with most of the diplomats. Fast forward, he called me, I spoke to somebody, and on the weekend they opened up the consulate and gave that guy visa, of course, because it was a medical emergency. After that, so he's mentioned in the book, I never kept in touch with him. He said, "Manoj never called me, never asked me a favor, कि मुझे actor से मिलना है, किसको shooting दिखाना, etc., etc." Forgotten, done. 3 years later, we met at a common birthday party. He again met me. From that time, our bond started creating, and we've been friends ever. So and that's why somebody like him came, has written a foreword, and has shared a lot of views. So what I'm trying to say in my book all along is, there is no harm in doing networking with a transactional mindset. Everybody has to do that. But if we change the lens, the law of karma, as I call it, it comes back and the gains can be manifold. With this, I can go on and on. I've several stories. Some of them are written in the book. I live my life like that. I live every day like that. And that's how, and I'm saying is, it has to internally change. Once you change the lens, you see everybody. And and that's why we're listening. So when you meet somebody, our general mindset, and again, nothing wrong with it, what can I gain out of that? If I meet Ganesh Natarajan, I will say, oh, he's an important man, he's an accomplice, can I get some funding, etc., whatever. But point is, if you don't go with that mindset and you go and hear somebody and understand what is, and in that conversation, you'll figure out either somebody is looking for an admission or internship or etc. or a medical advice for somebody suffering from cancer. And if you listen to that and get back to them within 24, 48 hours with a response, without expectation, I can tell you, you'll become a human magnet. With that, I like to pause. And Anurag, we can be in conversation.